Hi, and welcome to SpiroFit. I am Lawrence, and I am proud to introduce to you my colleague and friend, Bernadette O'Brien, whom you may know as our nickname Super Betty from some of our other SpiroFit releases for active aging. Today in this program, we're all about building mental muscle. What is the long 6-syllable word for that begins with an N?
Neuroplasticity.
Absolutely. Can you say that 5 times fast? Neuroplasticity. We are going to involve simple body movements, very functional from every day, bending over, picking things up, short and long-term memory, and the other skills that the brain needs to be able to do. Problem solving, working with numbers, recalling spatial orientations of letters with colors, for example, working with space and the body relationship to space in simple patterns called marching, and working with some fingers. We'll be doing some recall from simple things like groceries. Do you like to eat?
I certainly do, Lawrence.
And do you have an assistant, or do you do your own grocery shopping?
I have an assistant, but I do my own grocery shopping.
So we'll be working on groceries, and then we'll be doing problem solving for some simple everyday issues. All you need to get started is a little space around you, an open mind and open heart, and something little but functional appropriate for you that you might be wanting to pick up later on. We'll be using today the Bosu Soft Fitness Ball. Let's get started. Bernadette, what I want you to do to start is just face me and start marching. The reason we want to start to train the body with simple patterns is because if I asked you just to work your memory or just asked you to march, I'd be doing just one of those two things. Have you march or have you work on your memory? But to train neuroplasticity, what do I have to combine?
You have to do both at the same time.
Ab-
And your mind and your body work together. And that way you can increase your memory and your reaction.
So let's work on memory and reaction, Bernadette. While you're doing these simple patterns, I'm going to tell you the last 4 numbers of my phone number, 5683. Can you repeat them?
5683.
What would the last 2 digits be?
8 and 3.
What would those 2 last digits be backwards?
3 and 8.
What would they add up to?
11.
11. What are the single digits of 11?
1 and 1.
What would those 2 single digits be backwards?
1 and 1.
Very good. What are the last 4 numbers of my phone number forward?
5683.
What would the last 4 numbers of my phone number be backwards?
3865.
What do the last 2 numbers add up to?
11.
And what are the first 2 digits?
5 and 6.
What do they add up to?
Also 11.
Isn't that amazing? So my phone number has the last 4 numbers of 5683 that add up to?
22.
Brilliant. What are those 2 numbers, 22, as single digits?
2 and 2.
What are those 2 digits backwards?
2 and 2.
So smart. Let's change the moving pattern to an out and in. The reason this is harder is because your lower body is going out and in, but the arms stay the same front to back. While you're mastering this, my friend, could you repeat the last 4 numbers of my phone number?
5683.
Wonderful. You can shout them out as loudly as you want. Can you tell me those last 4 digits backwards?
3865.
Wonderful. Now I'll tell you the 3 digits that go before the last 4 digits while you're still marching out and the arms are going front to back. 873, 5683. Could you say those?
873 5683.
What would all of that be, my friend, backwards?
3865 378.
Wonderful. And you know the area code in New York? Mine is 917. I probably shouldn't be telling you my real phone number because after watching this, I may get some crazy text from loving people watching SpiroFit, of course. So I'm going to ask you, what's my whole phone number with the New York City area code 917 forward?
917 873 5683.
That's brilliant. Can you tell me any of that backwards?
3865 378 719.
Wonderful. And are you marching and doing all this at the same time?
I am, Lawrence.
Now let's face our friends watching us. Continue the marching with your feet closer together. Bring your hands together and let's make a figure 8 laying on its side or an undulating number infinity sign. While you're doing this, can you tell our friends watching my phone number going forward starting with 9?
917 873 5683.
That's brilliant, Betty. Now, in America, because I have some international friends, we have an international country code for our country and Canada. Do you know what that number is?
1.
And if you text international, you have to put a geometric shape or sign before that number 1. Do you know what that is?
A plus.
Right. So a +1, then my whole phone number makes my whole entry what, Bernadette, moving forward?
9, no, plus 917.
Plus 1.
Plus 1, 917, 873, 5683.
And just for icing, before we move on from numbers, my friends, what's all that in this wonderful pattern you're doing backwards?
3856, 378, 719, 1 plus.
Absolutely brilliant. I'm going to assume that that was all correct. That's brilliant. Let's stop that pattern. Face me. Stop that pattern, please, and face me. Wonderful. And then just reach your arms overhead, take your hands to your shoulders, touch your hips, and then come down with a squat position to the ankles. Go all the way to the ankles. Wonderful. Then hands back to the knees, back to the hips, back to the shoulders, overhead, and come back to your hands to the hips. Wonderful. For those of you wanting to know how to properly execute the squat, we're not teaching that in this because we have done that in some of our other SpiroFit releases. Now, Bernadette, we're going to play with colors because we've done with the numbers, but I want to keep you doing some movement. So what I'm going to invite you to do is do some toe taps out to the side so you're actually stepping off of the mat each time. And when you raise one arm, the toes go to the floor. So keep waving at me. I love that. What's your favorite color?
Red.
Wonderful. And how do you spell that favorite color?
R-E-D.
Wonderful. And what would you say that backwards, each of those letters?
D-E-R.
Wonderful. Let me give you another color, yellow. Could you spell that forwards, please?
Y-E-L-L-O-W.
And how are we going to do that backwards?
W-O-L-L-E-Y.
I'm going to assume that that was correct. Actually, that was perfect. My favorite color, although you didn't ask me, is blue. Actually, a dark cobalt blue. How would you spell blue forwards?
B-L-U-E.
And how would we reverse that?
E-U-L-B.
E-L-U-B?
No.
Okay.
E-U-L-B.
Wonderful. And those make up my initials. Wonderful. What are you wearing today? What color?
Pink.
Wonderful. How would we spell pink?
P-I-N-K.
And how are we going to spell that backwards?
K-N-I-P.
And how would we pronounce that?
Kimp.
Knip. Wonderful. Absolutely. Let's face our friends watching and go back and do the drill, this time facing them. I cue it and you do it. Hands up into the air. Touch your shoulders. Touch your hips. Squat down to the knees and touch your ankles. Beautiful squatting. Back to the knees, back to the hips, back to the shoulders, overhead, and come back to your hips, hands on the hips. That was beautiful, Bernadette. We're going to move on now to spatial skills. So for spatial skills, we're going to take the hands and march in place and look down and then look up. Sometimes it's okay to look down and sometimes it's okay to look up. I'm going to give you the lead for where we're going to trace geometric patterns on the floor in relation to our SpiroFit mat and here our playground, okay? We're at the back left corner of what we'll say is the first geometric shape. We'll call it a triangle. Watch me first. As I look down, I'm going to walk forward, then I'm going to walk backwards, and then I'm going to finish that triangle across the back edge of my SpiroFit mat. Does that make sense? Yes. So now without me, my friends, keep marching and go ahead and march in the first line of a triangle. So it's on a diagonal to the front, beautiful. And then we're going to do the second line of the triangle, which is back towards me. And then the third line of a triangle goes across the back edge of the mat to where we began. Could we do the triangle in a whole different pattern where you start moving towards me and then go to the front and then go to the back where you are now? Absolutely. So let's do the first line towards me, marching towards me, and then up to the front, my friend. Notice how sometimes she looks down and sometimes she looks up. And then the third time is the backwards march. What shape did we make, Bernadette?
A triangle, Lawrence.
Wonderful. Now let's stop that and imagine we have a circle under us. It's a clock. We're going to walk to 12 o'clock, which is all the way in the front and center. So you're going to come up to your front of 12 o'clock. Now look where your clock goes, all the way around you. My clock goes all the way around me. So if I wanted to go forward in time, and I really feel sometimes I want to go back in time, I would go forward in time looking down and up, and I would go to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, this is about 3, 4, 5, this is about 6, opposite to where I started, 7, 8, 9, and finish at 12 o'clock. It's your clock, you're looking down at your clock. Let's go forward in time and you do that. I'll step back and have you look down and forward, 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9, and back to the beginning. What number is the beginning?
12.
Wonderful. Would you like to go back in time, Bernadette?
Yeah, that would be great fun.
You recently had a birthday, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Doesn't it always feel like going back in time?
No, it seems like it's going forward.
I don't know. After your gin and tonic, sometimes you tell me that it feels like going back in time, but you love that white wine as well. White wine does not count as water for hydration, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely. So let's go back in time. Let's go to 11 o'clock, 10 and 9 o'clock, and hang there for a second. And then 8 and 7, and hold at 6 o'clock, which is opposite to where you started. Beautiful. And then go to, ready? 7 and 5 o'clock. Beautiful. And 4 o'clock. Beautiful pick up there. And 3 o'clock, which is opposite from 9. 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and where'd you begin?
At 12.
So we went forward in time and back time, and that whole shape we just made was a
Circle.
perfect. Now we're going to move on to the last one, which is a square. I'm going to invite you to walk backwards. So we have a little more space in relationship to our SpiroFit mat. Watch the first square. Because began everything to the left side last time, this time we're going to begin to our friend's right or our left. Check me out. I'm going to march. I'm going to go across the back. I'm going to be across to the front, then across the front in a side pattern, looking over my shoulders before I ever move backwards, and then backwards. So I've made a square shape on the dimensions, more or less, of my SpiroFit mat. Are you ready?
Yes.
So come a little bit closer to me to start, because your first square line of 4 is going to go to your left, our friend's right, as they watch you. Ready? Start to march, and let's go across the back for your square, and up to the front edge of our SpiroFit mat, and then across the side, back over to me, and then look over your shoulder before you'd ever go backwards, and you see how close I am to you, and then here you are, back here. Let's stay going in that direction, but reverse the square. Let's go forward first. Notice how she's reacting to the vocal cues and the visual cues. Let's go over to your left shoulder. Wonderful. And then looking over your shoulder first before you go backwards. Now you're going to go backwards across the back. And how do you finish off that square, Bernadette? You come
Going toward you.
absolutely towards me, back to me, and then you stop there. How could you make the whole other square go? You could start from the front. You could start from a corner. You could actually do, if I stepped out of your way, the whole square series this way, forward, side, and back. But we're not going to do that more than once. We'll just show it now. So could you march? Wonderful. The first line of the square is across towards our Bosu fitness ball. Let's go forward now. Across the front edge, then across the edge of our SpiroFit mat, and then looking back over your shoulder before you go backwards. That's a big square. That's a big square, Bernadette. You've turned it into a rectangle, but that's okay. That's okay. And then you come back to me, and let's stop there. Now we're going to make the square a little bit shorter this time, but we're going to make it in another direction. So keep marching, and the hands are moving at the same time. Let's go forward first, across, front to top, then across to the right. Wonderful. Looking over your shoulder so you know what's behind you, and then walking backwards, finishing off the square, and then across to where you started, and you stop when your hand is on my hip. Wonderful. Bernadette loves it when her hand is on my hip. So there you are, stopping and starting. That was our third of the whole spatial skills. The first shape, do you recall what we did?
A triangle.
And the second was
A circle.
and the last one?
Was a square.
A square. Wonderful. Let's reverse that and do a little mental body relief. So we come forward, face our friends who are watching, and while you're marching at home, I'm going to have you freeze your legs and take your arms overhead. Stop marching, arms overhead, and touch your knees. Arms overhead. Touch your hips. Arms overhead. Touch your ankles. Arms overhead. Touch your shoulders. Arms overhead. Hands to the hips. Left hand overhead, right hand ankle. Left hand overhead, right hand ankle. And switch that. Whoa! And come back, hands to your hips. I know you love those kind of games. We're going to move on, though, to groceries. We're going to move on to groceries. And to make it very interactive, neuroplasticity, I can't just use short-term, long-term memory with you because that would just be training memory. How do we train neuroplasticity? What do I have to make move?
The body and the mind working together.
Wonderful. So do you notice I have our Bosu fitness ball? I'm not going to pick it up for you. I'd like you to show our friends at home how you lunge to pick it up and then get back up. So I'd like you to pick up this, please. You could do a lunge, and then she gets to the mat, she picks up the soft ball, and she pushes up. Wonderful. Now there's another way you could have actually picked that up too, right? So let's say, oh my goodness, you dropped your fitness ball. I'm so sorry that happened. I would like to be chivalrous and pick it up for you, but that wouldn't help your muscles. So I'm going to invite you to show our friends how you could squat and pick up the soft Bosu ball. Squatting down, reaching forward, back there to the heart, and lifting up. How wonderful is that? So I'm going to invite you very carefully, look over your right and left shoulder, so you know what's there, and walk backwards a little bit. So you're going to march backwards a little bit, and we're going to play the grocery game. Are you excited?
Yes, I am.
Short-term memory will become long-term memory. I'm going to say a sentence, and you repeat that sentence. I'm going to the store to buy dark chocolate.
I'm going to the store to buy dark chocolate.
Wonderful. Did that train neuroplasticity?
Not yet.
Right, because I just had you repeated, and that's short-term memory. What I invite you to do is take your feet a little bit wider. I'd like you to drop the Bosu fitness ball, let it go, and show our friends how you bend over and pick it up from a squat. Notice how she supports her hands on the knees. Then you pick up the ball all the way up and take the ball overhead, and then stop when the ball's in front of the heart. Now what I'd like you to do is let it drop. When you start to move to pick it up, you're going to say, I'm going to the store to buy dark chocolate. Here we go.
I'm going to the store to buy dark chocolate.
And the ball goes overhead. That's neuroplasticity. I'm going to add an item, my friend. I'm going to add paper towels. So you're going to repeat the whole sentence from the beginning. I'm going to the store to buy dark chocolate and paper towels. While you're moving, let the ball go, and as soon as you let it go, you start the sentence and start moving.
I'm going to the store to buy dark chocolate and paper towels.
Wonderful. And batteries.
I'm going to the store to buy dark chocolate, paper towels, and batteries.
Do you like peanut butter?
I do.
We're going to buy some peanut butter too.
Okay. I'm going to the store and I'm going to buy dark chocolate and I'm going to buy paper towels.
You don't have to keep going. Just one round for the whole thing. That's okay. And bring it to me.
Paper towels and peanut butter.
Right. Wonderful. What's the whole thing in order? We're going to go to the grocery store.
We're going to go to the grocery
You
store.
can lower your hands.
And we're going to buy dark chocolate, paper towels, and peanut butter.
Do we have batteries?
And we had batteries.
Wonderful. How about some broccoli?
Broccoli.
So here we go.
Okay. I'm going to the store and I'm going to buy dark chocolate, paper towels, batteries, peanut butter, and broccoli.
Wonderful. We want the whole series of dropping the ball and picking it up only to be one time while you say all the recall. Otherwise, you're going to be tired because we're going to be at this game for 29 more minutes. And I want to be able to assure you can do enough squats. Actually, no, the recall is just one series to the whole thing. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let it go first. Now, while you bend over slowly and pick it up slowly, tell me what you're going to do and where you're going and what you're going to do there.
Okay. I'm going to the store and I'm going to buy dark chocolate, paper towels, batteries, peanut butter, and broccoli.
Wonderful. Can we add something else? I'd like you to add something else. What do you want to buy, or what did you most recently buy when you went to the grocery store that you feel comfortable with sharing our friends at home watching?
Goji berries.
Goji berries. Wonderful. Nice, long, multi-syllable responses. We love those. So we're going to drop those. And tell me where you're going and what you're going to do.
We're going to the store and we're going to buy dark chocolate, paper towels, peanut butter, batteries, broccoli, and goji berries.
Wonderful. I'm going to add one more thing. Light bulbs. Light bulbs. I love light. It's so important. So drop that, please. And here we go.
I'm going to the store and I'm going to buy dark chocolate, paper towels, batteries, peanut butter, broccoli, goji berries, and light bulbs.
Awesome, wonderful. Did you notice her facial expressions? Did you see the squinting? Did you see the recall? But she always moved. That's neuroplasticity. Congratulations. And that concludes part 1 of Mental Muscle. For more interactive brain-body connection games to build neuroplasticity, check out part 2 here on SpiroFit.